Welcome to Fun and Games Side Quests. Every episode is a different host sharing a video game they love and why they love it.
Hello everyone, my name is Mychal Lemos, and I am currently a senior writer at Gearbox working on an unannounced project. Previously, I've worked at Ubisoft on Assassin's Creed Odyssey and Sucker Punch for Ghost of Tsushima. I've also worked for a couple other projects. I've been hit by layoffs 3 times in my career so far, so I definitely feel for everyone currently dealing with that and hope that everyone finds something very soon. So to be honest, I struggled to pick a game to talk about. Games like Yakuza 0, Persona 4 Golden, Journey, Sleeping Dogs, games that I could spend hours talking about were all covered already, and for a very good reason. They're amazing games. So I kept scrolling and took a look at what Legend of Zelda games had and hadn't been talked about. I mentioned to my partner that maybe I'd talk about the game I chose for today, and she thought I was joking because she's one of the people that hates this game. And she's not alone. If you didn't read the title of the episode, you may already know which entry I'm talking about, and that is The Legend of Zelda Skyward Sword. I avoided playing this game for years because I'd heard how bad it was, but I finally played it and I loved it. I adored every second of it, and I knew this game was worthy of some time in the spotlight on this podcast. So before even getting into the game, I want to say a couple of things. First, it's good to remember that we're never going to convince someone who loves a game that it's actually bad, or vice versa, that something they don't like is good just because you love it. People have their own likes and dislikes, and that's a great thing. If everyone liked every single bit of media you did, it'd be boring and stale. But there's another side of liking or disliking something that I've seen online here and there that isn't so cut and dry. And that's going to watch a movie or play a game. You enjoy it, and you hop online afterward to chat with people who also loved it and find out, oh, it's bad. Maybe it has bad reviews or bad ratings, or every thread is people hating on it. But it makes you question your own experience with it too now. You read the comments and go, oh yeah, I guess that is true. And if you stay on that path for too long, that great experience you had may no longer be so great. Please try to not let that happen. Enjoy what you enjoy and let others do the same and call it a day. If you had fun or had an impact on you and it made you laugh or cry or feel anything at all, don't let anyone take that from you. Hold those moments close. Now, I said that you can't convince someone who doesn't like a game to suddenly like it, and that's true. So, anyways, here's why you're wrong and should absolutely love The Legend of Zelda Skyward Sword. The original Skyward Sword was released in 2011, with Skyward Sword HD following a decade later in 2021. Sales-wise, the original on the Wii sold 3.67 million copies worldwide as of 2020, and the HD version sold 4.15 million as of December 2022, meaning it basically beat the sales the original had over the course of a decade in only a year and a half. Disclaimer, like I said, I didn't play this game for years. I was personally one of those people that played the HD version on Switch, so a lot of the negatives from the Wii version was not part of my experience at all. I remember hearing people had issues with the motion controls or some of the graphics or how often your Navi replacement talked, but I had none of those issues in the HD version. So there's a good chance I'd 100% see this game in a different light had I played it back on the Wii, but I'm honestly so glad I waited. Story-wise, I don't want to go too in-depth on the story because I do think it's one of the stronger ones in the Zelda series, especially in regard to characterization, and I want people to fully experience it on their own. So I'm just going to summarize the very first cutscene in the game and the background you're started with as a player, just so you have an idea of what this game's about. So the scene starts by saying that this is a story passed down by humans for uncounted generations. Demons appeared from a fissure and attacked the lands and people who lived there. The goddess Hylia had been given a power by the Old Ones to protect, a power which allowed the holder the means to make any desire a reality. To protect it from the evil now swarming the land, she gathered every surviving human together and sent this power and the people skyward, beyond the clouds and far out of the reach from the demonic hordes. The goddess ultimately won and sealed away the evil. Again, the person telling the story says that this is a tale that humans have told for generation to generation, but that there are other legends hidden from memory that are intertwined in this tale, and a new legend bound to the story is ready to be revealed. We then see the ground fissure once more, and a massive shadowy creature emerges from it. And that's that. You get sent skyward and you start your journey as Link. Link in this game is currently a knight in training, which I think is already such a cool start to the game and Link's character in my eyes that that's his role in the game from the start. He's a knight in training. You meet a couple of characters early on, like Groose, who sort of views Link as his rival to Zelda's heart and love, who we'll talk about him a bit more later. I love Groose. Like other games, you also get a companion, this time a spirit named Fi, one of those, who resides in a sword that Link pulls up, obviously proving he's the prophesied hero who would finally destroy the big bad of the game. Like I mentioned in the cutscene, to protect the people, Goddess Hylia gathered them up and sent them to the sky, and that place became known as Skyloft. And so much time has actually passed that people believe the surface below is a myth. Abilities and combat wise, because I didn't have to use motion controls, I had a great time with the combat. I loved that I still needed to attack with my sword a certain direction for some enemies, horizontal or vertically. To be honest, it just made me wish more games would take inspiration from this and Metal Gear Rising Revengeance and do more directional based sword combat. It's just really fun. Like all games, you get other pieces of gear to help, obviously. One of my faves was the Beetle, which you remotely control and can use to do things like hit switches, collect items, or even carry items. You get this in the very first dungeon, which is great. And you can actually upgrade it to the Hook Beetle, which lets you carry and drop bombs from it, or the Quick Beetle, which increases the speed it can fly, and the Tough Beetle, which allows it to fly for way longer so you can collect items that are super far away. There are also mitts, which you use to dig through the ground. There's the classic bomb, bow and arrow, an item that's basically a giant leaf blower. There's a harp, a whip, a claw shot. There are also medals you can collect during your playthrough that give Link passive perks, such as an additional heart of health, doubling how long potions last, increasing the chance of treasure or rupees dropping, or even one that marks bugs on your map that you can catch with your bug net. All this, along with multiple shield choices and sword upgrades, makes for a lot of fun and variance throughout your entire playthrough. You know, you may have a different way that you go into combat than someone else, and I think that's really cool. Now, as for dungeons, there are 7 main ones and some mini ones as well. There's a lot of really good dungeons here, both on the theming side as well as the gameplay and puzzles within. Like the story, or maybe even more so, I won't go too in depth here, as dungeons are obviously one of the major aspects of these games, and being surprised by them throughout will always be one of the best moments, in my opinion, for the series. So, yeah, I'm just gonna let them be a surprise, but they're really great. Character wise, so I'd mentioned Groose earlier. There's not a ton of NPCs in this game, but Groose is one of them, and he rules and has the best arc in the game for sure. At the start, he's the guy with the 2 dopey lackeys who laugh at everything he says and joins in on the jabs at Link, who Groose really doesn't like. We learn right away in the intro that the reason why is because of Zelda. Groose hates how close Link is to Zelda and how they've been friends since childhood. Basically, Groose wishes he was Link, but Groose is great. Oh, and he has such a good theme song too. I feel like if you just listened to his theme, you'd immediately get an idea of what sort of character he is, even without playing the game. And it's great. Now, to the really good stuff. This is some of my favorite stuff in the entire game, and that is Link and Zelda. I love how much we see them interact at the start of the game. Like I mentioned, they're already close friends and have been since childhood. So there's already a past by the time you're starting the playing as Link. And there's also some super obvious romantic tension, which is just, mwah, it's great. It's wonderful. For example, at the start, Zelda makes sure Link is woken up and comes to see her first thing in the morning before a big ceremony, so he can be the first one to see her in the clothes she made herself, which, along with her harp, completes the look for the role of the goddess she's playing in the ceremony. It's adorable. She wants him to be the first one to see her like this. It's so cute. Then her dad shows up and says if you win the ceremonial race, you get to participate in the, quote, post-race ritual with Zelda. Which, I mean, come on. They knew what they were doing here. So you also have a loft wing from the start, which is basically a massive bird you fly around on. That's how you'll get from the Sky Island to Sky Island later on. These birds are said to be gifts from the goddess, who bestowed them upon every person in Skyloft as a symbol of her divine protection, and they believe that a person is only made whole by their loft wings. Of course, Link's loft wing is not only rare, but they are said to share a connection that is equally as rare. But yeah, there are a lot of super cute character moments during the tutorial. There's one where you're taught to call your loft wing with Zelda, and she's teasing you, and she ultimately pushes you off the ledge to force you into the sky to call your Loftwing and fly for the first time. I won't spoil what happens there because it's a great moment that doesn't go exactly as you'd think, but it shows off more of Zelda and Link's relationship early on in such a great manner. And that honestly goes a long way because obviously there comes a point where she disappears and your goal is to find her. And because these moments were added at the start to really show how close Link and Zelda were, and also when to make me like Zelda as a character immediately, it wasn't just Link that wanted to save Zelda, but I did too. Like, I'm not sure I can speak highly enough of the intro in these important, adorable character moments. There's another one in the intro with Zelda where you leap off the ledge to call and fly on your Loftwing. This time she doesn't push you, but she leaps off the ledge shortly after, and she's just laughing and forces Link to fly and catch her. She obviously does. And then there's a cute moment where they're just staring into each other's eyes. Or when you obviously win the race and you get to do the ritual mentioned before, it's filled with multiple cute, like, are they gonna kiss moments? She asks Link to fly around the clouds together in the most adorable way ever. And okay, I'll stop now. But the beginning of this game is some of the best Link Zelda interactions in the entire series, and I loved every second of it. Gameplay and story-wise, you're not stuck to the Sky Islands, but are ultimately tasked with going to the surface as well, which, like I said, it's a place that nobody actually thinks exists. So you'll spend time going back and forth between the land and sky, flying between islands on your Loftwing, meeting the villain known as Girahim, I think is how you would say that, whose goal I won't share here for spoiler reasons. And then obviously searching for Zelda as you go through the unique dungeons with some of the classics you're used to, like, the volcano and the lava. Oh yeah, and character-wise, Fi, which I mentioned before, she was fine. Again, I think they toned her down from the Wii version. I think she talked a lot more and people got annoyed, but I didn't have an issue with her at all, so that was cool. Music-wise, one of the best themes in the entire series. Please, even if you don't plan on ever playing this game or revisiting it again, go and listen to the main theme. I've been lucky enough to hear it played by a live symphony with scenes from the game on a projector, both before and after I'd played the game. And it is one of those songs and themes that hits me hard every single time, especially with the video alongside it. Every game in the series has some phenomenal music, but this theme in particular really hits the spot for me. As a whole, Skyward Sword is absolutely one of my top 5 Zelda games. And depending where you look, that's not the norm. I searched for some lists online out of curiosity that were ranking all the games in the series. And for example, Polygon had one where they put Skyward Sword 10th out of 16 games. GameSpot put it at 13th out of 16 games. And IGN, it wasn't even in their top 10. And I get it. There's not only a bunch of amazing games in the series, but it can be hard to figure out where a game like this goes when you're comparing it to ones like Ocarina of Time or A Link Between Worlds. But also those that changed the entire series in some massive ways, like Breath of the Wild. If I was to do my top 5, it would absolutely have Majora's Mask and Breath of the Wild and Wind Waker in it. Alongside Skyward Sword, that leaves one more on the list, which I'll leave unsaid, so you can just pretend it's the one you can't believe I left off the list. Now, I'm not saying you should all go out and play Skyward Sword again, but if it's been years since you did, maybe give it another go with HD version and go in with an open mind and try to leave those prior feelings behind. And if you've never played it before, you definitely should give it a try. Go in expecting nothing and see if you're surprised. Maybe you won't be, but I sure was. Happy gaming.
Are you tired of watching your beloved characters being tortured by careless authors?
Are you sick of feeling like they could have swapped out all of the painful action and the plot would remain untouched? Subscribe to Books That Burn, the fortnightly book review podcast focusing on fictional depictions of trauma.
We assume that the characters' reactions are reasonable and focus on how badly or well they were served by their authors.
Join us for our minor character spotlights, main character discussions, and favorite non-traumatic things in the dark books we love.
Find us on Spotify, iTunes, Google Play, or wherever you get your podcasts.
CPOV. CertainPOV.com.